my sweet summer twink.
Flight 815 crash landed, but where? There's weird jungle noises and a polar bear. What the fuck is going on over there? Helen
And Alex
will guide you through. If you've seen Lost 20 times,
or if you're brand new,
welcome to our show. It's
Dharma Fish Biscuits. Hello and welcome to Dharma Fish Biscuits, your new favourite Lost podcast.
We're your hosts, Helen and Alex. We're going episode by episode, spoiler-free, bringing you all the hot takes no one ever asked for.
We are on Instagram at Dharma Fish Biscuits Pod. We are on TikTok at Dharma Fish Biscuits. And you can also email us on dharmafishbiscuitspod@gmail.com.
You can also join our Patreon for free at patreon.com/dharmafishbiscuits. There we are sharing behind-the-scenes bits and bobs about the show, outtakes, jingles, and of course, the spoilery version of the episode.
Yes, Helen and I have both seen the full show, so our podcast feed here is a safe space for newcomers. We will not be discussing spoilers. However, during our chat, sometimes spoilers come up. So on the Patreon, we include an uncensored conversation where you can find little spoilery nuggets as well.
Normally, I would say, instead of going beat by beat, we aim to focus our discussion on the character the episode centers around, first in flashbacks, and then on the island, and then we circle back to what we missed. This time, we're going to be trying something a little bit different. We're going to first summarize everything that happens in the flashbacks, and talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to summarize everything that happens on the island, and then dive a little bit deeper into specific moments or themes or characters or groups of characters that we want to talk about a bit more. So we might be jumping around a little bit more, but hopefully it's going to make for a better episode overall at a time when we don't really have a clear A and B plot on the island.
This week, we have our second Charlie episode. Season 1, episode 15, Homecoming. So in the flashback, we see Charlie and his friend with no money. They have no money for drugs, so his friend introduces him to Lucy. So yeah, he meets Lucy. Charlie is flirting with her in the pub. She brings Charlie back to her house, meets her father, and Charlie has this epiphany while he's at dinner, knowing that actually Drive Shaft is probably over and he needs to do something else. So he takes a job selling photocopiers for Lucy's dad. Except, unfortunately, his friend is then like, you were supposed to rob from Lucy and get us money to buy drugs, so now you want to get a proper job? I'm cutting you off, and refuses to give him any scag. So then by the time Charlie starts his job...
Spoken like a true heroin addict.
By the time he starts his job, he is then in horrible withdrawal, throws up all over the photocopier, and then Lucy is like, you tried to steal from me. And he's like, I just wanted to take care of you.
And she says, you'll never take care of anyone.
She does. So
I have a lot to say about Lucy's accent.
I have a lot to say about the accents in general, because we do meet the two genders of British people here, which are Dick Van Dyke and Julie Andrews. Simply, we have Dominic Monaghan, the actual Englishman, and then we have either Dick Van Dyke, or I'm gonna cut off your scag, or Julie Andrews, oh Charlie, you bastard.
Yeah. Thank you for that extremely efficient rundown of the flashbacks.
You're very welcome.
Can we start by just talking about Lucy in general? Because there's something about her that I find very unsettling. Part of it is the accent, I think. That her English accent is quite good, but it's not all the way there. So it's in this kind of uncanny valley of sometimes she sounds quite convincing, but then sometimes things are just slightly off.
Yeah.
Also, I think the fact that they're flirting in the beginning and they're clearly supposed to be... I mean, she's clearly supposed to be into him and he is kind of into her, but also using her for her money. But their interactions are so asexual. There's something very desexualized about their early dating.
Yeah, I agree with you there because it feels really jarring when they come back and he's like, you didn't have to say coffee if you wanted to have sex, you could have just said sex. And it felt really jarring. I don't know if it's just the way he was
Yeah.
saying it.
Him flirting with her is all part of his plan to kind of get to her money.
Yeah.
So the fact that it was a little bit unconvincing coming from him, okay. But she is also really like, doesn't behave towards him in like a erotic way either. When they have their like first date, he's saying all this, oh, if you wanted to invite me back for sex, you should have just said sex. And then later she gives him a kiss on the cheek. I'm sorry, but if you're on a first date with someone and they kiss you on the cheek, that's basically saying like, I'm not interested, this isn't going to go anywhere. It's
so
such
I think
a weird,
part of this is also playing into like, I think the British stereotype of she is a very prim and proper woman who is very straight-laced and upright, and of course I'm just going to give you a little peck on the cheek to say goodbye to you. She's not I don't think she has brought him back to have sex, and I almost wonder whether Charlie was mocking her by being like, you didn't have to say coffee, you could have just said sex. And she's like, oh, how could you possibly suggest such a thing? Is at least the read I got from her character. I don't think she's a very fleshed out three-dimensional character.
No, I suppose she isn't. But it's just a very strange choice if you're showing a new relationship, and it's going to be a relationship that she's sufficiently invested in to want to like give him a job and try and help him out in his life situation, for her also to be behaving in such a sort of like friend-zoney way with him. Very weird. Anyway, we can move on.
So up till now, our flashbacks have mostly been tied to what's happening on the island, at showing us either some parallel to the character's history or just giving us an insight and revealing things about the characters. And now we're sort of progressing, because we're on episode 15, the show is progressing into its territory of the flashbacks are now just a little side quest.
Disagree. I think that this flashback was very clearly designed to parallel and tie into the stuff on the island, because what Charlie's talking about in his main plot on the island is I should have taken better care of Claire. I feel responsible for her. I really failed. I'm looking at Jin and being like, oh, you know, you've got it all right. All you need to worry about is taking care of your wife, and you've got such a better life. And
that is true.
The way that the flashbacks end are with this big dramatic scene with Charlie saying, oh, I took the job because I wanted to
take care of you.
Take care of you. And she says, you'll never take care of anyone. That's the point where it ties together again and we see the link and the connection.
Yeah. So for me, I thought that was a really weak ending, a weak attempt to tie it back, where it was like, Charlie's just gone on this little fun jaunt, and then, oh, how do we tie it back to the episode? Let's say that he wanted to take care of her, and it's all about Charlie taking care of people. And it felt a bit too much like, okay. For me, I thought the flashbacks were fine. To me, it felt a bit too laboured to connect it back. But I do think that's interesting what you said about Jin, because, yeah, he does have that scene where he's talking to Jin, and he's like you say, you've got everything sorted out. You've got your wife, and you're looking out for her, and you two are set. And I guess that does play into that whole theme of Charlie taking care.
I think you also are right that the final scene with Lucy is a little bit of a kind of on the nose, over obvious way to try and pull them together.
Yeah. Can we just talk about some of the really odd things that people say in all of these flashbacks? Where I was like, are you trying to come up with English slang, or is this just bizarre?
Give me what you got.
I believe in monogamy. I will not be shared like a common curry.
Yeah, that one clanged for me a little bit on my second watch, but I was like, I suppose if you get curry, you often get a couple of different dishes and share them. Like, yeah.
I mean, okay. I guess so, but the way he says it, I don't know.
He said it as if it was an expression, which it's not.
Yeah.
So...
And then when she says, oh, you should meet him, obviously he's joking when he says, oh, Winston. But then he says, I've heard he's quite mouldy. Like, yeah, I guess the dead body is mouldy, but it just felt like a bizarre thing to say.
I think that in all of this early section, Charlie is so much in his, like, jokester, cheeky chappy, flirting, trying to get attention. So I think a lot of the awkward phrasing just comes from there. The fact that he's in that persona and he's trying to turn everything into like a little joke and a little...
Yeah.
Yeah.
The final one, when he's talking to his friend Tommy, I like her. She's a moose.
Okay, that I
What?
do not know what that's about.
What are we talking about?
Okay, but I have other issues around the use of the English language in this episode.
Oh, yes, please.
I feel like they probably had a bit of back and forth about what to call the photocopier. Because they never call it a photocopier. No. They call it a copier or a copy machine.
Yeah,
but they never call it, and I'm like, okay, so we're just in a parallel universe where the word photocopier doesn't exist. And I'm guessing in the US they call it a Xerox machine. Is that the standard thing?
I assumed they called it a copier. But we definitely don't call it a copier in the UK.
Yeah.
Also at the end when she says that the EMTs brought the cigarette case from his body.
Oh, good catch. Paramedics, you mean?
You mean the paramedics?
Yeah. I guess that's the sort of thing that, like, if you're an English actor on a set like this, you're probably going to feel a little bit like pick your battles in terms of what lines and what mistakes in the British English you call out and...
Well, I also think that if you are the writers, you would be like, hey, British person, as just a standing rule, if you notice anything that clangs, let us know.
But I don't think they care that much. Like, how much of the overall worldwide viewership of Lost are British people that would even notice those mistakes? Very small.
That's true. Any more English language uses to
discuss?
Only
I mean, obviously there was a lot of dodgy accent work, as we've said, but only one line read that was so bad that I wrote it down. Why did you take the job, Charlie? There was like just more in that than I could even put into words. The why.
Why? Incredible.
Great stuff. The only other thing that I actually wanted to talk about in the flashbacks was the scene where they're at the dinner table and he's meeting her dad for the first time. And he's talking about how the band is breaking down and they were on a really long hiatus. It's kind of a monologue because he has all these lines and the other two characters don't say anything. But there are these really, really long, unnatural pauses between each of the things he said to the point where I was starting to be like, wait, are they scamming him? Like, why aren't they saying anything? It seems like they're doing the Louis Theroux thing of just listening silently and waiting for him to expose himself. It was such a weird, unnatural way for that scene to play out.
Yeah. Also, her dad does say that Charlie is the most impressive person who's ever had dinner with us. And I don't think I believe that for a second.
Can I ask, why is he so rich if his job is like photocopiers?
That is a great question.
Because he looks like the way their house is and these collections and stuff that he has, it looks as if they like come from money, like they have some kind of inherited money. Yeah. But people who come from inherited money don't work in like the photocopier industry.
Yeah. That is a great question. A plot hole, I feel.
Did you find it really jarring as well, the little scene where you cut to the photocopier sales?
The sitcom scene?
Yeah, like...
where the guy's got a stopwatch to time Charlie.
And the music was really strange. Like, it was obviously intentional, but I don't think it achieved what it intended to do.
I couldn't decide if it did or not. It wasn't like quite as funny as the music seemed to be implying that it should have been.
And it was also sandwiched in between quite serious moments on the island, so it was really jarring from that point of view. Yeah.
Also, not to dwell on it too much, but he lifts the lid of the photocopier to throw up on it. Except if you lift the lid of a photocopier, like, we see him from behind, and it sort of looks like he puts his head inside to throw up. But if you lift the lid of a photocopier, it's just a glass surface. So really, he's just throwing up and it's just spilling out everywhere.
Yeah.
Horrid.
I think obviously he was reacting. He didn't have much time to think about what to do, but surely at least try and go for a waste paper bin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe you have a coffee cup. Just anything that can contain. Because like you say, a sheet of glass is not the ideal recipient. All right, would you like to quickly take us through a rundown of the action on the island, and then we will dig into that?
I will. Just one more thing I wanted to add. That
Please.
You know how a few weeks ago we were in Iraq and we knew we were in Iraq because we had the yellow colour grading on? This time, we know we're in London. And how do we know that? Because there is Tower Bridge superimposed in the back of an alley.
Oh, yeah, I think I interpret, like, my eyes interpreted it differently, and what I thought I was seeing was like a raised railway bridge.
Oh.
But you're right, that is Tower Bridge.
That is Tower Bridge.
That is a terrible piece of set work. Yeah, I can only agree with you now.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Shall we move to the island?
Oh, let's jump back to the present. Back to the island.
So, a little rundown of the action on the island. In the end of the last episode, we saw Boone and Locke come across Claire. She comes back to the caves and she says that she doesn't remember anything since the crash.
Charlie has a new run-in with Ethan where Ethan says to him, you need to return Claire, and for every day that goes without you returning her, I will kill another one of your group. And Charlie, I'll kill you last.
So then he talks to Jack and Locke about this, and Jack and Charlie are of the opinion that they should try and find Ethan, whereas Locke suggests that they bait him. Kate suggests that perhaps it's time that Jack opens the Marshal's case and they use the guns that are there. So they set up this trap for Ethan. They have little tripwires all around and set up sentry members around, allegedly, all entrance points. However, Boone falls asleep, and then he wakes up, and there's a dead body on the beach. And Locke says someone came in from the water. His neck is broken, and his arms, and the bones in his fingers. And it was Scott. R.I.P. Scott, not Steve. Claire realizes that everyone is staring at her, and Shannon, of all people, is the one to inform her of everything that's going down with Ethan. So then they get the guns, they form this little plan. Jack, Said, Locke, Sawyer, and Kate all have guns and try and trap Ethan with using Claire as bait. Ethan comes along. Jack beats him to a pulp.
Charlie shoots him in the chest.
Everyone is quite sad that Charlie shot Ethan.
I think that was about as concise as we could get it.
We get almost an eye shot for Charlie. However, je suis Charlie. Charlie is asleep, so his eye is closed.
Je suis Charlie. Malheureusement, it means unfortunately. Le sigh. In an early scene between Claire and Charlie, when she doesn't have her memory and she's trying to figure, she says like, oh, are we friends? And she's like, I don't remember this Ethan guy. Who is he? And Charlie says, Ethan's the bad guy.
Yes.
I've been thinking a lot about that, especially in light of how the episode ends. Ethan is, I find him so scary. I think he is such an effective villain. He's so creepy, and he has this kind of overpowered strength. He seems to be able to sort of come back from anything.
Yes.
My partner, who's watching the show for the first time, is convinced that he is not actually dead, that he's going to come back somehow.
Ooh.
And I'm like, you do get the sense that Ethan has some sort of supernatural element to him, that he seems so unworldly in his strength and ability to beat people up and show up from the middle of nowhere in the jungle. So I could imagine feeling that way about him.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're keeping him so ambiguous, but like you say, he appears from nowhere. He seems to have this supreme strength. And me and Connor were having a chat about this, because Connor also has noted these things, but doesn't like it, and is like, this is just stupid and seems unrealistic. And I'm like, well, we don't know anything about this guy. And I guess if you want to just take everything on face value, you can be like, it's stupid and unrealistic that he would have the superhuman strength. But I think it does bring up interesting questions. Whether or not the show wants to answer them or answer them in a satisfactory way is its own thing. But he is this sort of omnipresent force that we don't know where he's going to come from. And also the fact he comes from the water as well, or someone comes from the water to kill Steve or Scott? Scott. Sorry, I kept calling you Steve.
Which one is Scott and which one is Steve? You say you know the difference, I don't believe you. Which one is Steve and which one is Scott? You say you know the difference, no you do not.
The fact he comes from the water is like, oh, they must be somewhere else where they've got the ability to come through the water. I don't know, it just opens up all these questions about who is on the island, whether there are more people. Which gets into, like, do you think Charlie did the right thing in killing Ethan?
Yeah, I think that was the next thing I wanted to talk about as well, because in my heart of hearts, I don't think Ethan would have told them anything, and I do somehow believe that he could have overpowered 5 people with guns, because that's how deep my fear of Ethan goes.
Yeah.
So, even when he was kneeling there, and he had Sawyer's gun right up against him, Sawyer has his great line, Jungle Boy, not even for 1 second. But I was in the edge of my seat waiting for Ethan to sort of launch himself at Sawyer and tackle him and maybe get the gun. And, from a logical point of view, Charlie did not take the right course of action, because Saeed's right. They could have potentially tried to get more information from Ethan. But firstly, I think Ethan is very mentally strong and would not have broken to interrogation.
Yeah.
And secondly, I would have been living in constant fear that he would attack people and kill people again, that he would be communicating somehow with, if there are other people on the island. I mean, let's face it. We don't know anything about Ethan, but it seems very unlikely that he could be a Rousseau type living fully by himself on the island, because what would his motivation have been then to infiltrate the group of survivors and live among them? It would be really strange for him. Do you know what I mean? I don't think you can make sense of Ethan's actions without considering that there must be more people on the island, right?
I think so. Without wanting to get too spoilery, I think at the very least there is a very real possibility that there are more people and he's not by himself. And this is sort of where I landed, that I think I agree that he wouldn't have said anything. And I think even if you torture him, I think there's a very real chance he's not going to tell you anything. You're not going to get anything from him. But is it potentially opening up a can of worms too much to kill him? If there are more people that he is a part of, what are they going to do when one of your people has killed one of their
that's obviously
people?
That's obviously the flip side of it is he has come to the survivors camp. He has tried to kill people and successfully kill people and taken a prisoner. So the conflict is already there.
Yeah.
Our Losties and Charlie didn't start the conflict, but yes, if you know that you're dealing with people who are violent and dangerous and have seem to have very high levels of skill, strength, and as Locke points out, the island is their territory.
Yes, we're just people with sticks.
So I think from that point of view, yes, by killing him, you've obviously raised the stakes in that conflict, a conflict that you yourselves don't fully understand and haven't chosen to be part of. So absolutely, from that point of view, it's not smart politically. But I find it hard to say that he did the wrong thing, because I think in the alternate universe where he doesn't shoot Ethan, they are dealing with a very slippery and dangerous character. And I don't see how that could have ended well for them.
I think you may well be right. The other thing they do that really pisses me off is, as soon as Ethan comes out of the jungle, Jack tackles him and drops the gun and then just starts punching him. And it's like, we've been here before. We've done this before. When Ethan first kidnapped Charlie and Claire, Jack found him and started punching him and wrestling him in the mud. And what happened? Ethan overpowered him and ran away. Yeah. Now, the whole point is we've got an advantage. We've got guns. Jack immediately drops the gun, which is what allows Charlie to pick it up to shoot Ethan and kill him. But also, Jack drops the gun, so then he's just back on a level playing field and is just punching him again. It's like, Jack, you've done this before, and you were bested.
Yeah, Jack's not the best in these situations.
No, and like if Ethan had stood up at that point and he had grabbed the gun off the floor, then suddenly your big advantage is no longer an advantage.
Totally.
And Ethan
Also,
can then
I'm
run off.
Sorry. Why could Claire not pick up the gun? I know that she was very scared in the moment and very, like, you know, just kind of running for her life and frightened. But she sees Jack drop the gun. Why not just pick it up, if only, like you say, to prevent Ethan from being able to do it, even if you don't plan on using it yourself?
Yeah.
Just to...
Like, that's a dangerous weapon. Let's keep hold of it.
Yeah, seriously.
Do you want to talk about guns on the island? Do you have any thoughts about this?
I think the guns are going to become such an important part of the sort of power dynamics on the island, and who has guns, who can get guns off other people, who is trusted with guns, all of this sort of thing. It's going to become an interesting thread.
Yeah. I just think, up till now, we haven't had guns. Although I was thinking about this, what happened? Sawyer shot the polar bear with the gun, and then he shot the marshal with the gun.
He's just had that gun ever since. That's the one that he gives to Kate later.
So that's what I thought, but then I was like, but Jack looks really surprised when Sawyer's like, by the way, I've got this. And they're like, oh my God, you were hiding this. But it's like, no, it was common knowledge because we know that Sawyer shot lots of things. So why were they acting like, oh God, it's this massive deal that we're opening the briefcase and getting guns out when they have knowingly had a gun already?
Both Jack and Kate should have remembered that. I agree.
Yeah. But anyway, apart from that, for the last few episodes, we haven't had guns, and it's been physical violence that they have had to resort to. And I just find it interesting that now, and I wonder if it's an American mindset, that suddenly they're like, we must all have guns, we must all shoot each other, and it becomes sort of normalised that for the rest of the show now, people are gonna be shooting and killing each other. And I don't know if we did
actually, but I think there's a commentary in that, isn't there? Like, now the briefcase is unlocked, it cannot be relocked. Like, now the guns are out, people have access to them, people know that they exist. You can't put
the toothpaste back in the tube.
You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Exactly. So if anything, I think maybe that's a clever commentary on the way that these kinds of situations, like the level of conflict, can be increased unwittingly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. And I mean, I think, you know, we're both Buffy people, and famously in Buffy, guns aren't really allowed on the show. There are very few moments when any character uses a gun against any other character on Buffy. And that makes it extremely effective and jarring the few times that gun violence does show up. I can see your point about, by having a show where people do not have guns as a go-to solution for solving their problems, you can create better drama and you can create more interesting stakes. And there are definitely moments on Lost where the guns give us almost too much drama.
Yeah. I also think it sort of minimizes the act of killing. And maybe this is a bit too philosophical or whatever, but the show as a whole, it doesn't quite seem to treat the seriousness and severity. I mean, up till now, I think we have, but as it goes on, I think there is a lot more willingness to just randomly shoot out, and it doesn't, as a matter of self-defense, we're just going to shoot a gun, bang, 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 without really considering the fact that, like, oh, this might mean you are ending a life and a person is dead.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. We're going to steer clear of spoilers here, but if you have a gun, and one of the characters says it, is it Jack who says it, about as a sort of reason to not open the briefcase, is that if we have guns, there's a much greater chance that someone's going to get spooked and shoot and will hurt one of our own rather than actually being safer. And at that moment, I was like, yeah, you got to hand it to Jack.
I hate to have to walk my opinions back, but this time I have to hand it to Jack.
Like, that is a really good point, especially when he talks about putting guns in untrained hands.
Yeah.
You know, luckily there are at least 5 people on the island who can handle a gun. Possibly more, we don't know. But yeah, it's true what you say, that when shooting a gun and ending a life can become something that you do by accident, or in a moment of fear, or in just a moment when there was really high tension, or you felt threatened, then yeah, the severity and the seriousness of what it means to shoot and kill someone does become undermined, I think.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, I've been really... we can take this out of the podcast because by the time this comes out, it will be months and months ago. But I've been really struggling with depictions of gun violence this week after what happened in Renee Good's shooting.
Yeah.
Like you say, the way that when a person is shot with a gun, it makes the ending of their life such a small moment that can happen so easily. And that's been really hard to watch this week.
Yeah. I completely understand. I will say that I think there are times in this show that they do treat it with the severity that it should. Like, we see the impact of what that does to the people that are responsible. Anyway, this is all a very cheery tangent about hypothetical plot points that will not come until much later on in this television show.
We're halfway through the podcast. We talk a lot, we know. Why not take this time to write a review? It helps more people find the show. Or pop us a little email, or simply tell a friend. We're gonna need some listeners if we're to make it from the pilot to the end.
When Claire has returned and she has amnesia, and the sort of A-team are off discussing what they're going to do about it, and I think it's Jack, Locke and Saeed. Is it Saeed that expresses some kind of skepticism about, well, what if Ethan deliberately sent her back here? And Charlie's like, you're off your rocker, mate. That whole conversation. Someone, either Locke or Saeed, can't remember, asks Jack if he's ever diagnosed amnesia, and this very specific type of amnesia. And Jack's like, well, no, it's very rare. And I'm like, Jack, you're a spinal surgeon. When would you ever even have the opportunity to diagnose amnesia? That's not part of your job. Like, why didn't you just say that? Idiot.
Yeah, get Derek Shepherd in to look at the brain.
Exactly. When they're making their plan for the operation, there's a little line of dialogue that you can hear Jack say, kind of almost in the background as we kind of move focus to another scene. And he's going, okay, Saeed, soldier, Locke, you're the hunter. And then it kind of fades out. And I was like...
I didn't pick up on that
Yeah,
at all.
isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
He's intending, at least, to try and give people roles in this operation based on their strengths and abilities. And yet it seems in the end like they just all have the same role. They're all like crouched in trees with guns, standing around in places where they can see Claire.
Maybe he wasn't necessarily giving people their game plans, but was instead just like characterizing why people were on this mission. So like, Saeed, you're here because you're a soldier, and Locke, you're here because you're a hunter. And it's just been like, these are the reasons why I want you.
You have a track record of being able to shoot a polar bear. Kate, you're a criminal.
You're the criminal. But also it ties into, and we do get this quite a bit of like character archetypes that people play. And we've had this several times throughout the show, including in this very episode where Claire and Charlie are talking about Ethan, and Charlie says he's the bad guy. So we've got the bad guy, the hunter, the soldier. Yeah, that was all I had to say about that.
And it's interesting because specifically Saeed as the soldier or a soldier is also something that, like, I mean, in episode 9, Kate expresses concern for Saeed, who's been off, wandering the island and trying to map it. And Jack, in reassuring her, is like, he's a trained soldier. I wonder whether Jack in particular gets hung up on these people's roles and people's identities being able to be cleanly reduced to sort of one archetype. Yeah. Maybe it's something that happens naturally for him as a doctor, as a person who's both sees himself very clearly through that identity and also has other people attach it onto him.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Wow. Deep. I thought the bit where they're discussing the plan, and in particular where Jack and Locke are discussing the plan, and I find the dynamic between Jack and Locke endlessly interesting. We've talked about it before that, like, Jack is the de facto leader, but Locke is the sort of the influential advisor who has the leader's ear and can kind of like influence him to do the things that he thinks they should be doing. And that continues into this episode when Jack, he wants to track Ethan, and Locke very sensibly says, well, that's not a very good idea. We did that before. Look what happened. We don't know the terrain as well as Ethan and his potential colleagues do. Yeah. Or the other people in his group. And Jack is a little resistant to Locke being so critical, but he ultimately says, look, you seem to have a plan. Why don't you just tell me what your plan is? And then they do Locke's plan. So there's the opening here of Locke is someone that Jack listens to and trusts and wants to have as his kind of, I don't know if second in command is the right term, but his close advisor.
Yeah, I think they want to be on the same team ultimately.
I found it, I mean, I want to talk more about the Boone and Locke dynamic, and perhaps we can come back to that. But the bit where they're talking about, oh, some of the men are going to stand guard, and Boone immediately is like, I want to be a guard.
Yeah, and Locke saying to him, we're all counting on you, Boone.
Yeah, it's great because he says it to, Saeed's the one who's kind of coordinating this, and Saeed gives him his really skeptical face and goes like, okay.
Yeah.
And then Locke is like, don't worry, Boone, I'm here to give you the validation that you need. We're all counting on you.
Yeah, Locke is encouraging Dad.
Yeah. Why were the men not in shifts? It seems like all of the men that they recruited were sentries all night, which was a bad plan. Why didn't they do shifts and switch out with each other? Then we wouldn't have had Boone falling asleep.
Well, I was thinking about this, and I guess maybe I didn't follow the plan well enough, but I don't know if I do blame Boone, because he fell asleep, but then by the time he woke up, it was like fully daytime. So it's not like he fell asleep for a couple of minutes and something happened.
No,
he must have been out for hours. But then he runs into the jungle and still nothing, we don't know anything that's happened. And then finally they find him, and then someone starts screaming and has found a body. So is the body on the beach? Was Boone keeping watch on the beach?
Okay, what I think, and I could be wrong, was that Scott had the sentry post at the place in the beach where Ethan came in. So, like, Ethan comes in from the water, the first person he meets is Scott, he kills Scott.
Right.
That's the only way it really makes sense to me, but it still doesn't fully make sense because he's got a broken neck and broken fingers and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
How do you attack someone in that way without it making enough noise to wake other people up who are standing guard relatively close by?
And also, so if we take your theory as correct, that Scott was the sentry on the ocean and that's why he was the first person Ethan met, then Boone falling asleep is irrelevant, surely.
I think Boone falling asleep is irrelevant.
Yeah, and we're literally just seeing it so we can be like, oh,
Boone sucks.
You fuck up.
Yeah, that's kind of my take. But it is very strange that, like, so the bag falling when the tripwire is tripped makes enough noise that it wakes Boone up and it also brings everyone else running. And yet the noise of murdering a man and breaking his neck and arms and everything did not make enough noise to wake people up. And
I guess that possibly the bones could have been broken after he died, so he might have done a surprise.
That's weird, though, right?
Surprise attack, kill him. He's now dead, and now you go. I mean, it's weird anyway, because going back to what we were saying about Ethan and his superhuman strength, breaking all of the bone, like seemingly all the bones in his body, or at the very least, what do they say? His arms and his fingers.
Yeah.
That's quite vicious and brutal, and I think requires a lot of strength to do that.
Yeah, it's very unexplained, and okay. But I think you've actually hit on something important there, which is that scene with Boone falling asleep on duty is essentially just there for us to be like, oh wow, Boone sucks. He's constantly asking for more responsibility and he wants to be treated like a leader and like an important member of the group, but when he's given those opportunities, he cannot live up to it.
Yeah.
I think it's all part of Boone's journey.
I think so. Also, later when he's in the caves, when Jack comes to see Locke, and Jack is going to go and tell Locke about the guns, and they go up. Jack's like, "Can you come with me? I want to talk to you." And Boone's just sort of looking up at them like, "Me?
I want to
leave him behind.
Yeah,
you're not involved, Boone.
Should we do a bit more of Locke and Boone corner?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's this scene early on. They found Claire in the jungle, and they were the two that brought her back to the caves and back to the group.
Yeah.
And then they're sort of sitting around chatting about it. And Boone's asking all these questions. I didn't write them down, so I don't know exactly what they were, but
he seems very skeptical of Claire and is basically saying, "You really think she doesn't remember anything? You think I don't know."
I thought he was asking more questions around Ethan, like, but why would she be back now? And where did Ethan come from? And Locke is fully getting sick of Boone's shit, and he's just like, you were right beside me, Boone. You know as much as I do. And this is the way that I always feel when people have conversations with me in the form of asking me questions.
The bit that did make me think he was skeptical is he says, "She didn't say anything at all about Ethan." And Locke says, "Apparently she doesn't even remember Ethan." And Boone says, "The guy pretends to be one of us. He drags her through the jungle for almost 2 weeks. She doesn't remember him." And Locke says, "Apparently."
Yeah, Locke is he's getting sick of being this substitute father figure for Boone, I think. And Boone's, we saw him in the previous episode. He's become like a zombie lackey for Locke. And I think Locke is no longer enjoying having a zombie lackey. The kind of gormlessness, the kind of blank stare that Boone brings to every interaction. Like you said, he watches Locke and Jack go off and he just sort of stares after them being like, but I want to be in the making decisions group. He's just really, really bothering me.
Yeah. I think my read of this early scene is that he wants to take some action, but he doesn't know where to direct that action. And I guess that's why he's sort of being like, where's Ethan? Where did Claire come from? Where was Ethan? Is he around? Should we find him? And when he's not getting anything, then he's like, well, what about Claire? Is she saying she doesn't remember anything? Maybe she does. Maybe we should talk to Claire some more.
But isn't this Boone's problem through the whole series thus far, is that he wants to be taking action. He wants to be one of the people that matters. He wants to be making a difference. And that always leads to him doing the wrong thing, whether it's lifting the gun off of Sawyer?
Oh my God, yeah.
Sawyer or Said in that very early scene when they're camping out on the mountain, or whether it's taking the water and hiding the water bottles. We have a bit of a list of Boone's poor decisions at this point, and the common denominator is always, it's like his ego, his insistence on being one of the people who matters and who is important to the group of survivors.
Yeah. He is wearing a nice shirt in this episode, though.
That's nice.
So that's good.
Otherwise, in Locke, I thought this was a really good episode for Locke. I know I said last time that I was parting ways with Locke and I would sort of not enjoy him. It's not that I don't enjoy him, but that I was really down on him after his the old boop and goop that he did on Boone. But he had a really good episode this time. He was level-headed. He could bring people around to see his point of view in a, but by using reason. And when he's having that conversation with Jack about Jack wants to go and track them and asks Locke whether he would be able to track Ethan. And Locke gives him the very transparent answer of being like, well, maybe I could, but I wouldn't. I'm not going to do something just because you tell me to. I actually have my own view on what the right thing to do is here. And I felt a lot of respect for Locke, and I thought, good Locke episode.
I think a good Locke episode. And it's interesting because you know what the difference is now between what we're seeing in this episode versus what we've seen in previous episodes, where you've gone off him, is that it's almost like we had Locke from the beginning of the series, where what he was doing was looking out for survivors and looking out for his fellow castaways, as opposed to the last couple of episodes where he's been like, the island, what does the island want? And it's almost like in the Helen Jones view of John Locke, when he's thinking about people, good Locke. When he's thinking about the island, bad Locke.
Yeah, because I think when you're saying and he's thinking about the island, in my mind, that is his weakest. That's the weakest element of his character, because he can so easily get swept up in mystical ideas about supernatural power. And of course he can, because his injury that prevented him from walking was mystically healed. So of course he believes in the island's mystical healing powers. But yeah, when he takes his skills and abilities and his leadership abilities and applies them to real life situations that actually matter to the people in front of us, rather than what's this mysterious hatch, then I do feel a lot more appreciation for his character, and I am more on his side.
Yeah.
Also, let's just not forget that he attacked and drugged Boone. I'm sorry that
he did do that.
Okay.
I would like to once again potentially hand it to Jack, maybe for the second time in the episode, because when they're first having their conversation about how to deal with Ethan, Jack proposes the idea that they should move everybody off the beach and to the caves. And ironically, what happens, Helen? They stay on the beach, and the person who's on the beach is the one who is murdered. I'll tell you where that wouldn't have happened, if everyone had gone to the caves.
But the Locke's answer to him then is, but what if this is their plan, that they get us all in one place and they can wipe us all out easily? I think it was a reasonable fear.
I mean, yeah, this is true. But who else is present in that conversation, Helen? It's Charlie.
Charlie?
And what does that mean? We have 3 people.
Wow.
This is my attempt
seamlessly back.
My attempt to segue in when we're not discussing scene by scene. Did
Beautiful.
That work?
It was fine.
Let's go.
Do it.
3 characters in a scene. You know what that means. It's time for Fuck, Marry, or Kill. Fuck, Marry, or Kill.
Charlie, Jack, Locke. I think this is...
It's a rough one for me. I'm struggling here already.
No, I think it's fine. Fuck Charlie. I'm going to marry Locke because I do think he's got good skills. And I'm going to kill Jack.
Okay. I don't want to do any of those things. Well, I always want to kill Jack. But, okay. Marry Locke, unfortunately, does seem like the only option.
He's a very resourceful man. And as you said, he's had a good week
as long as he's on my side, then it'll be fine. It's when he turns against me that I'm concerned. So, okay, I'll marry Locke, but I think I'm going to flip reverse it on the other 2.
Wow.
I don't want to shag Charlie. I just don't, and I won't.
You'd rather fuck your nemesis than Charlie.
Hey, there's always an opening in the enemies to lovers trope. I've fucked Jack before, canonically, on this podcast, and I probably will again. So,
good.
That's my decision.
Can we talk a little bit about Claire?
By all means.
In this episode. I would like to say that the scene she has quite early on with Charlie by the campfire, first of all, she's drinking out of a jam jar, ? Not sure what happened to all of our famous water bottles. Or indeed where we even got a jam jar.
I didn't notice that. One of the cut up water bottles does come back later on though, so they still haunt us.
That's good. Play the jingle.
Cut that bottle up. Who needs bottles when you got cups?
But then they have this conversation and Charlie says, I'm not much of a sleeper myself. Finally someone to stay up with. And Claire says, we're friends? And the look on Charlie's face, honestly, I've watched this episode twice and very nearly made me cry both times. Just
Aw.
the look on his face and the music. And I don't know, there's something about the fact that they did have a relationship, and as far as she is concerned, it's completely gone from her memory. And he remembers this. He remembers their relationship, and also maybe it didn't progress as far as he would have liked it to progress. And now they're back to square one and have nothing. And all he's thinking is, oh, we did have this. We had something. And she's like, did we? Is that anything? I don't know. It just really got me.
Oh, that's sweet. It didn't really get me, but it did. I did think, like, he kind of quickly presses her diary onto her, which is of course a really good way of being like, oh, maybe this will help you to remember things. Don't forget to look on page 40 where it says Charlie's adorable and sweet and makes me feel safe. Yeah. And by the end, she remembers peanut butter. You know, as someone on the Discord that I now frequent wrote recently, peanut butter is her constant.
Oh my god, that is amazing.
I thought that she had a great moment when you mentioned that Shannon is the one to break it to her about all the goings on with Ethan.
Oh my god, that's because please give an award to that extra who, when Claire just goes to the waterfall,
just
turns and gives her the
away.
most obvious stare as she walks away. And then goes to Shannon.
Claire goes up to Shannon and says, why is everyone staring at me? And Shannon goes, oh, I'm not staring at you. And she's like, what's your name? Shannon does a nice piece of acting here as well, when you see that the cogs turning of her going like, right, she's forgotten everyone. I have to tell her my name again. And she says, Shannon. And then Claire goes, Shannon? You're staring.
You're staring.
I was like, oh,
Great.
Yes, queen.
Also during that scene...
Iconic line, why would you keep me in the dark, Charlie? Sorry.
Very good.
There's going to be a lot of Claire iconic lines for a while.
I would like to shout out Shannon's incredible outfit in that scene.
I didn't clock it this time.
Oh my god, Helen, how did you not? She is wearing a halter neck top and dangly earrings. She is fully dressed to the nines. She's ready for a black tie event. She's going out for a fancy dinner just to go to the waterfall and get some water.
We had a little comment, because you know we have a TikTok about Shannon and her outfit of the day.
Yes.
Someone made a comment. Ellie, or Eli possibly, comments, she's the only one that realised they were on a tropical island. She was living her best life, tanning every day.
They are certainly not wrong.
Are you done talking about Claire?
Yeah, that's all I had to say.
I think
that's everything for Claire.
I was a little bit surprised that by the end of the episode, like, she's come around enough to Charlie to want to, like, mend their friendship and spend time with him again, because, I mean, I guess he's kind of the only person, in much the same way as how he was the only person who wanted to spend time with her when she was alarmingly pregnant. He's now the only person who's actively wanting to spend time with her now that she has amnesia and has been captured. So I guess that's why she comes back to him. But I was surprised after she had been so mad at him for not being honest with her, and it happens quite quickly that she comes back around and is like, I remember peanut butter.
I guess, but I also think there is something to be said of he wasn't honest with her, but I think it's true that he wasn't honest because he was trying to look out for her, and I think that she probably can understand that. And there is a difference. There's a difference between someone being dishonest in a way that makes you not want to have anything to do with them versus being dishonest in a way that you maybe need to have a conversation about how you handle certain things. And I think it's understandable for someone to think maybe she wouldn't want to know this and it might actually quite upset her. And if he's doing it to try and upset her. And if she says, you know, in future, if something like this happens, tell me about it. I think it's a workable conflict that they can get over. But maybe I just love them.
Can I do a bit of Jin and Sun corner?
Yes, please.
They have an interaction at the very beginning of the episode.
I thought this was really interesting.
Yes, where Jin is asking Sun questions about what's going on with Claire and saying, is she okay? Is her baby going to be okay? And Sun obviously is like, I have to fucking pretend that I don't know, that I don't speak English and that I don't understand all the stuff. And so she kind of answers in a way that's like, oh, she seems okay. I'm sure her baby will be fine. But at the same time, I was like, has Jin cottoned on? Is he beginning to suspect that Sun does understand English and that's why he's asking these questions to her? Is it maybe time for her to come clean?
Potentially. I thought it was interesting that, and I guess if you think, reading it again where he just says, and the baby, I'm like, yeah, I guess it does make sense that if someone really pregnant comes back, you'd be like, is she okay? Is the baby okay? But there was just something about the way he said, and the baby, and then it like lingered on Sun's face.
Yeah,
that I was a bit like, are we supposed to be reading something here?
I think they're planting a seed of like, have they tried to get pregnant before? Have they got something in their past that we're going to come back to about this? I think it's intentional.
Yeah. And the next time we see them is when Charlie is with Jin.
Yeah, Charlie is with Jin. And very
he greets him
sweetly,
in Korean.
He says "annyeong," which is like hello and goodbye in Korean.
Yeah.
And I
thought that was really sweet.
You, Charlie. Like,
I have to say, of all the people on the island who I thought might have tried to pick up some Korean and communicate with them, no offense, Charlie, he would not be top of the list. So I thought it was a pleasant surprise that he has somehow picked up.
Well, I don't know though. Charlie he was also the one who pointed out to Sawyer that Al Jazeera is a network. So he's
That's
kind
true.
of
Maybe he's
low-key
actually quite
anti-racist ally. That was lovely. And I just thought they had a really nice interaction. I did find it interesting that when Ethan is there to give this ultimatum to Charlie, or this threat, and he knocks Jin out before doing this. He has some kind of whooshy catapult type thing and hits Jin and essentially knocks him out and decapacitates him before he has this conversation with Charlie.
Yeah.
Do you think that's because he sees Jin as more of a threat and someone who would be able to fight him off?
Possibly, but I also think that Ethan probably just thought that Charlie was the best person to deliver this message.
I mean,
Ethan and Charlie have
logistical reasons, yes. But I thought it was significant that he was like, let me first get Jin out of the way because I don't want to have to deal with Jin. And I think there's something to that. I mean, we saw when Jin attacked Michael back in that episode.
Yeah.
He was someone to be reckoned with. So I
think you're right. Because also, when Ethan first kidnaps them, it's Claire and Charlie together. So he wasn't averse to combating two people when it was Claire and Charlie. But he obviously, for whatever reason, was like, Charlie and Jin, absolutely not. So yeah, I think Jin can be our muscle king.
Later, Jin is having his wound tended by Sun, and they have a sweet moment together. And towards the end of the episode, when Charlie's like, I think it's when he's walking up to see Claire again.
They've got this whole montage.
He goes past them and they're like spooning in the caves, and I was just like, oh, I love how things are going for them. Like, I want them to be happy together.
Yeah. Also, when they're talking about what's going on, Sun says something about the others, as in the other survivors, and Jin says, the others, I was attacked because of what they have done.
That's actually, because I completely glossed over it, but it's true. We should be mindful of the fact that Jin getting attacked has also like put this new barrier between Jin's willingness to cooperate and be part of the group and get involved in what's going on with the group of survivors. And he's like, well, their fucking drama has just led to me getting knocked out, and I don't appreciate that.
But... Big Rose energy from Jin.
Yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to just sort of pick up on is that little montage at the end, which I think is very sweet. The
music at the end, chef's kiss, loved it, delicious. When they have it's sort of kind of fading out and the music just ends on this like bing, bing, bing. It's like, Giacchino, you legend.
Yeah, so like you said, it was Hurley puts his headphones on. Sun and Jin are cuddling up together. Jack is getting some water and bringing it to, I don't know, some other people. Shannon is dabbing Saeed's wounds. And it's like we go past and see all these people who are helping and assisting each other, interacting with each other, people who have some connection. And then it goes to Charlie alone in the darkness. And we're like, oh no, Charlie's all alone. Except then that's not the end, because then Claire comes to him and says, you know, I remember peanut butter. And it's like, it's all okay for Charlie in the end. He's got his person on the island as well. And I thought it was very cute.
We have Connor's Corner and Hot Ranking.
We don't have Connor's Corner. He had absolutely nothing to say about this episode.
What? All right. Skip Connor's Corner this week, I suppose.
Yeah. Should we rank some hot people?
Let's rank the hotties.
Hot can be physical, hot can be emotional. Hot is whatever we decide, and everyone's attractive, but who's top of the ranking? Who's the hottest one on this island?
Who's hot for you, Helen? Or who are you hot for?
I have 2 key candidates. I actually want to know who you're nominating first, so that if you take one of mine, I can take the other one.
Okay, fine. Purely based on the incredible outfit selection, my hot ranking goes to Shannon.
Oh, nice. Maybe you can help me with my decision, because in the scene where Sun is like dabbing at Jin's wound and patching him up, I was like, Jin, shirtless Jin. Oh boy. That's a strong candidate for the hot ranking. But then later on, when Sawyer is like, when they're cornering Ethan and they're in the rain and he's got his gun out and he's all like, bleh, I was like, yeah, this also works for me. But Sawyer's hair is in a really bad place right now. It's got this kind of like floppy, uncomfortable length happening. Okay, I think that just this conversation has made it clear to me it has to be Jin. Shirtless Jin in the scene getting tended to by Sun was just a moment.
Congratulations, Jin.
Okay, we're going to be promoting Shannon and Jin, who are both pretty low down. In fact, Jin only recently joined.
He only entered quite recently,
hot ranking. But if I do what has become my sort of slightly standard procedure, which is move them 5 places up and see what happens. In fact, let's do Shannon first because she's higher up. That would put her into spot 4 behind Kate, Saeed and Sawyer. I think that's quite reasonable.
Okay.
Don't you think?
Maybe. Sure.
And so then if we do the same with Jin and moving up 5, that would put him just below Michael. That's position 8. Okay?
Yeah.
Here follows the list. Kate. Saeed. Sawyer. Shannon. Sun. Charlie. Michael. Jin. Claire. Boone. Hurley. Locke. Rose.
Lovely.
Is that it
for
this week?
I think that is it.
You might be wondering, did this episode pass the Bechdel test? And yeah, Claire and Shannon spoke to each other about not a man. So yeah, it did.
Congratulations, Lost. You're the most feminist show to ever exist.
A rare win for the Bechdel monitor.
Never forget, Lost is a feminist text. Just kidding, this show hates women.
Well, don't forget, you can follow us on socials. We are on Instagram at Dharma Fish Biscuits Pod. We are on TikTok at Dharma Fish Biscuits. And if you've got any Lost-related questions or comments or feedback, or, hey, if you want to make your case for who should be on the hot ranking, you can email us at dharmafishbiscuitspod@gmail.com.
You can also leave us a little lovely review wherever you're listening to the podcast right now. We love 5 stars. We love little comments. Just be nice to us, please. Or why not, recommend Dharma Fish Biscuits to your one friend who loves Lost.
Our next episode will be out in 2 weeks when we will be discussing episode 16, Outlaws. And I don't remember at all what happens in this episode. So that's exciting. Until then, I'll see you in another life, Helen.
See you in another life, brother.